Soup has voluntarily recalled more than 4,100 pounds of chicken soup products. So here's why. The cans were labeled as Campbell's
Monosodium glutamate, modified food starch, sodium phosphate, and yeast extract hiding behind natural flavors. All found in canned soups American families have trusted for generations. But open the wrong can, and what you are swallowing is thickened water carrying close to a full day's sodium in a single bowl. If you have been buying the same brand for 10, 20, 30 years, every can put the same additives into your body. I'm counting down 11 to throw out and 9 that are actually real soup based on FDA ingredient panels, USDA recall records, and independent lab testing. Starting with the cheapest can on the shelf. Number 11. Great value. Walmart's store brand is the cheapest canned soup in America, and the ingredient list tells you exactly why. 1 cup of Great Value condensed tomato soup contains 1,000 milligrams of sodium. That is 2/3 of the daily limit the American Heart Association set in 2024. The same cup packs 18 grams of sugar, which puts you halfway to the recommended daily maximum before you have even finished lunch. Flip the can over and you will find modified food starch, corn syrup, and a list of sodium compounds that reads like a chemistry textbook. The actual tomato content sits behind water, high fructose corn syrup, and wheat flour. Your grandmother would not call that soup. She would call it paste with salt. Consumer Reports found in a 2023 analysis that store-brand condensed soups consistently scored among the highest in processing levels compared to every other category on the shelf. Great Value is not a soup. It is a sodium delivery system priced at 99 cents. Sodium is one way to cut corners, but it is not the only shortcut in the budget aisle. Number 10. Kroger. Kroger's private label soups follow the same formula as Great Value because, in many cases, they come from the same co-packing facilities. The ingredient panels are nearly interchangeable. Modified cornstarch, soy protein concentrate, yeast extract, which is the food industry's legal workaround for adding MSG without printing those 3 letters on the label. Kroger's chicken noodle lists chicken broth as the first ingredient, but the actual chicken content falls under the contains less than 2% line. That means for every can you open, less than 2% of what you are eating is chicken. The noodles are enriched white flour. The broth is water with sodium and flavor enhancers. The FDA does not require soup companies to disclose the percentage of each ingredient. They only require listing them in order of weight. So, chicken broth can sit at the top, while the can holds almost no real chicken at all. Kroger charges a little more than Great Value for what amounts to the same product in a different wrapper. That 2% trick is not limited to store brands. Some of the biggest names in the soup aisle use the same loophole with fancier packaging. Number 9. Maruchan. Maruchan sells over 4 billion units a year worldwide, and there is a reason it costs $0.25 per serving. The ingredient list includes TBHQ, which is tertiary butyl hydroquinone, a synthetic preservative the FDA approved in 1972. The agency capped its concentration at 0.02% of a food's oil and fat content, but consumer groups, including the Center for Science in the Public Interest, have pushed for years to have it removed entirely. A single package of Maruchan Instant Lunch contains over 1,000 milligrams of sodium. Eat 2 in a day, and you have already blown past the American Heart Association's full daily recommendation. The vegetable content is negligible. A few dried peas and corn kernels rehydrate into something that looks like food but delivers almost no fiber and no meaningful vitamins. Maruchan's parent company, Toyo Suisun, generated over $3 billion in revenue in 2023. They are not selling you soup. They are selling you salt, starch, and shelf stability for the lowest possible cost. So what happens when a brand charges more but the ingredients barely improve? Number 8. Knorr. Knorr has been around since 1838, which gives it nearly 2 centuries of credibility. But open one of their cup soups or sidekick packets, and you will find that credibility ends at the label. The primary ingredients are cornstarch, palm oil, and dehydrated flavor compounds. The actual vegetable content in most varieties falls below 5%. Knorr is owned by Unilever, a $60 billion corporation headquartered in London. In 2021, Unilever committed publicly to disclosing the full ingredient origins of its food products. As of 2025, Knorr soup labels still list natural flavors without specifying what those flavors are derived from, which the FDA permits because the term is defined broadly enough to include almost any plant or animal extract. The sodium in a single serving of Knorr chicken noodle hovers around 800 milligrams, and the serving size is listed as half the packet. Eat the whole thing, which is what almost everyone does, and you are looking at 1,600 milligrams from a cup of what Unilever calls soup, but your kitchen would call flavored water with starch. If this investigation is already changing how you look at your pantry, hit subscribe. You are going to want to see what comes next because the brands get bigger and the ingredient lists get worse. Number 7. Healthy Choice. The name alone is doing the selling, and that is by design. ConAgra launched Healthy Choice in 1989 after company chairman Mike Harper had a heart attack and wanted a lower sodium product line. The origin story sounds noble. The ingredient panel tells a different story. Healthy Choice Country. Vegetable soup contains 480 milligrams of sodium per serving, which is not catastrophic until you realize that the can holds 2 servings. Eat the whole can, which is exactly what happens in almost every household, and you are at 960 milligrams. The ingredient list includes modified food starch, sugar, and both disodium inosinate and disodium guanylate. Those 2 additives are functionally useless without MSG already present in the formula, which means MSG is there, just hiding under other names like yeast extract. ConAgra reported over $12 billion in net sales for fiscal year 2024. Healthy Choice is not a health product. It is a marketing decision made by a food conglomerate that understood one thing very clearly. Americans will pay more for a label that sounds like their doctor approved it. That reliance on a trusted name gets even more creative one shelf over. Number 6. Swanson. Swanson is famous for its broth, but the company also makes canned soups. Campbell's acquired Swanson in 1955, which means for nearly 70 years, Swanson soups have been manufactured in the same facilities with the same ingredient playbook as every other Campbell's product. The difference between a Swanson soup and a Campbell's soup is the label. Swanson's chicken and dumplings contains modified food starch, soy protein concentrate, dried chicken, and wheat flour. The sodium runs around 870 milligrams per serving. The dumplings are flour and water formed into shapes. The chicken content is minimal, listed below the thickeners and fillers that give the broth its body. Campbell's transitioned Swanson to non-BPA can linings alongside its own products in 2017. But before that, every Swanson soup and broth sold in America used the same BPA-containing epoxy lining that Health Canada classified as toxic in 2010. Different brand name. Same manufacturing system. Same chemicals against your food for over 60 years. A familiar label hiding a corporate parent is one problem, but what about a label that tells you exactly what it contains and still gets it wrong? Number 5. Campbell's Cream of Mushroom. Campbell's introduced cream of mushroom in 1934, and it has been a casserole staple ever since. 90 years later, the ingredient list reads water, mushrooms, vegetable oil, modified cornstarch, wheat flour, cream, salt, whey, monosodium glutamate, soy protein concentrate, and natural flavoring. Mushrooms are second on the list, but the can is mostly water and starch thickened with oil. One serving delivers 860 milligrams of sodium. The can contains about 2.5 servings, which means if you use the whole thing in a casserole feeding 4 people, you are adding over 2,000 milligrams of sodium to a family dinner without anyone at the table knowing it. Campbell's transitioned away from BPA can linings in 2017 after years of pressure from consumer advocacy groups and a campaign called Cans Not Cancer that generated over 70,000 letters. The replacement linings use acrylic and polyester materials. Campbell's spent 4 years testing alternatives, which means from the 1950s until 2017, every can of cream of mushroom your family opened was lined with a chemical Health Canada declared toxic in 2010. The cream soups are bad, but Campbell's used the same playbook on a different protein and printed the 3 letters openly this time. Number 4. Campbell's Cream of Chicken. This one lists monosodium glutamate by name, right on the label. No hiding behind yeast extract or natural flavors. Campbell's prints it plainly. MSG is in this can. The rest of the ingredient list includes modified cornstarch, soy protein isolate, sodium phosphate, vegetable oil, wheat flour, and whey. The actual chicken content is buried well below the starches and thickeners. The sodium sits at 870 milligrams per serving. The Environmental Working Group scored this product at 58% of the Institute of Medicine's recommended daily sodium intake in a single cup, and that recommendation is based on the more generous 1,500 milligram target, not the stricter guidelines some cardiologists prefer. Campbell's markets. Cream of chicken as made with chicken meat with no antibiotics and farm-fresh cream. That is technically true. It also contains soy protein isolate, which is an industrial byproduct of soybean oil manufacturing used to add bulk and mimic the texture of real protein at a fraction of the cost. Your grandmother used actual chicken and a pot on the stove. Campbell's uses 15 ingredients to approximate what she did with 3. 15 ingredients to fake a simple recipe is one kind of shortcut. Putting the wrong food inside the wrong label is another. Number 3. Progresso. Progresso has been selling soup since 1949, and General Mills acquired the brand in 2001. Their traditional lentil soup contains 810 milligrams of sodium per serving. The ingredient list includes hydrolyzed corn protein, which is another FDA-approved way to add MSG-like flavor without printing those 3 letters. It also contains modified food starch, soy lecithin derived from GMO soy, corn syrup, and caramel color. In August 2020, Faribault Foods recalled over 15,000 pounds of Progresso organic chicken noodle soup after customers opened cans labeled chicken noodle and found meatballs and pasta inside. The USDA confirmed the cans contained undeclared allergens including milk, soy, beef, and pork. None of those appeared on the label. The recall was classified as Class 1, the most serious category. General Mills generated over $20 billion in net sales in fiscal year 2024. They own Progresso, Cheerios, Pillsbury, and dozens of other brands. Progresso is not a small Italian soup maker. It is a product line inside a multinational corporation, and the 2020 recall proved that even basic quality control can slip through the cracks at that scale. If mislabeling is one failure, the real question is, what happens when the marketing itself becomes the mislabel? Number 2. Campbell's Chunky. Campbell's launched Chunky in 1971 with the tagline, "The soup that eats like a meal." 50-plus years later, the meal it eats like is mostly modified food starch and sodium. Chunky Classic Chicken Noodle contains modified cornstarch, soy protein concentrate, chicken fat, and 790 milligrams of sodium per serving. The chunks of chicken and vegetables are there, but they float in a broth built on the same industrial base as the condensed line. Campbell's has faced multiple class action lawsuits over its labeling. A 2026 legal analysis identified several active tracks targeting the company for allegedly misleading consumers about health benefits, ingredient quality, and the historical presence of BPA in their packaging. The cases span condensed soups, ready-to-serve soups, and broths. The Campbell's Company reported net sales of $9.6 billion in fiscal year 2024. They own Chunky, the condensed line, Swanson, Pacific Foods, Prego, Rao's, and Goldfish crackers. One company controls an enormous portion of the American soup aisle, which means when you think you are choosing between brands, you are often choosing between labels from the same corporation. The Chunky label promises a meal, but the can that fooled more Americans than any other has been sitting on the shelf since 1897. Number 1. Campbell's Condensed Tomato. This is the most recognized can in American food history. Andy Warhol painted it. Your mother heated it for you after school. It has been on grocery shelves for over 125 years, and for most of that time, nobody flipped it over and read the back. The ingredients are tomato puree, high fructose corn syrup, wheat flour, water, salt, potassium chloride, citric acid, ascorbic acid, and natural flavoring. Tomato puree is first, which sounds right. But the third ingredient is wheat flour, used as a thickener so Campbell's can use less tomato. And high fructose corn syrup is second, delivering 12 grams of sugar per half-cup serving. Eat the whole can, and you are at 24 grams of sugar from something that is supposed to be a vegetable. The sodium is 480 milligrams per serving, 960 for the full can. The FDA's 2023 guidance on voluntary sodium reduction targets set the goal for condensed tomato soup at 460 milligrams per serving. Campbell's exceeds even that modest target. This is not tomato soup. It is sweetened, salted tomato paste extended with flour and water, packaged inside a can your family trusted for decades because it has always been there. Familiarity is not the same as quality. It never was. The countdown: 9 that are actually real soup. That was the last one to throw out. These next 9 earned a place in your pantry. They cost more. They are worth it. And every single one starts with ingredients you could find in your own kitchen. Number 9. Campbell's Well. Yes, it sounds strange to put a Campbell's product on the trust list after everything you just heard. But Well Yes is a different line with a different formula. Launched in 2017 as Campbell's answer to the clean label movement, The ingredient lists across the lineup are noticeably shorter, with no MSG and no modified food starch. Real vegetables appear in the first three ingredients on most varieties. The roasted red pepper and tomato flavor lists tomatoes, red peppers, water, onions, and chickpeas before you hit anything processed. Sodium levels vary by flavor, but several sit under 480 milligrams per serving, which is a genuine improvement over the condensed line. This is the same company that makes cream of mushroom. They proved they can make real soup when they want to. They just choose not to on their flagship products because the modified starch and MSG are cheaper. Well, yes, deserves credit for what it is, but it also raises an uncomfortable question about what Campbell's could have been making this entire time. Sharing a parent company with cleaner products is one thing. Starting clean from day one is something else entirely. Number 8. Muir Glen. Muir Glen has been making organic tomato products since 1991 out of Sacramento, California. General Mills acquired them in 1999, but the ingredient standards held. Their tomato soup lists organic tomatoes, water, organic cane sugar, sea salt, organic onion powder, organic garlic powder, and citric acid. 7 ingredients. Compare that to Campbell's condensed tomato at 9, with high fructose corn syrup and wheat flour doing the heavy lifting. Muir Glen uses tomatoes grown without synthetic pesticides and processes them in non-BPA lined cans, which they adopted years before the rest of the industry felt pressure to make the switch. The sodium content sits around 480 milligrams per serving, which is in the same range as Campbell's, but without the corn syrup, the flour, or the MSG. The taste difference is noticeable. Muir Glen tomato soup tastes like tomatoes. That should not qualify as a selling point, but after what we covered in the first half of this list, it absolutely does. Organic tomato products represent one lane. The next brand built its entire lineup around a different kind of clean. Number 7. Annie's Organic. Annie's has been making organic food since 1989 and joined General Mills in 2014. Their soup line carries a straightforward promise. No artificial flavors, no synthetic colors, no MSG, and no preservatives. The organic bunny pasta and chicken broth soup reads like a recipe, not an industrial ingredient panel. Chicken broth, organic pasta, chicken, carrots, celery, organic cornstarch, sea salt, organic chicken flavor, and spice extractives. The sodium levels are moderate, generally between 480 and 580 milligrams per serving depending on the variety. The protein comes from actual chicken, not soy isolate. The broth is chicken broth, not water padded with yeast extract and sodium phosphate. Annie's is not without limitation. They do not currently offer gluten-free or vegan soup options, which narrows the lineup for some families. But for anyone looking for soup that tastes like it came from a pot and not a factory, Annie's delivers consistently. Every ingredient on the label is something you could buy at a grocery store and use yourself. There is clean, and then there is minimalist. The brand at number 6 took the short ingredient list and made it a discipline. Number 6. Imagine Foods. Imagine has been making organic soup since the mid-1990s and focuses on doing one thing well: keeping the ingredient list as short as possible. Their organic creamy potato leek soup contains filtered water, organic potatoes, organic leeks, organic sunflower oil, sea salt, organic onion powder, and organic garlic powder. 7 ingredients, with no preservatives, no starch thickeners, and no hidden sodium compounds. The company uses Tetra Pak cartons instead of cans for most of its lineup, which eliminates the BPA question entirely. The sodium levels are competitive, often under 480 milligrams per serving, and the flavor comes from the actual vegetables in the recipe rather than from additives designed to simulate them. Imagine is not as widely available as Campbell's or Progresso. You will find it at Whole Foods, some Walmart locations, and through Amazon. But the limited distribution is part of the picture. Making soup with real ingredients and no fillers costs more and ships differently than making water with starch and sodium compounds. That is a trade-off worth understanding. Distribution is one barrier to finding real soup. Price is another, but sometimes paying more is exactly what quality looks like. Number 5. Health Valley. Health Valley has been quietly making organic, no salt-added soups since the 1970s. That is half a century of refusing to cut the corners that every brand on the avoid list cut routinely. Their organic, no-salt added vegetable soup lists organic vegetables, water, and organic spices, no sodium compounds, no flavor enhancers, and no modified starch of any kind. This is one of the only brands on any grocery shelf where the sodium content stays under 50 milligrams per serving from the soup itself, not from added salt. For anyone managing blood pressure, kidney health, or simply watching sodium intake, Health Valley is one of the few options that does not require compromise. You can find it at Whole Foods, Walmart, and Amazon. It is not expensive. It is just not marketed aggressively, which is why shoppers walk right past it on the way to the red and white can they have been buying since childhood. Health Valley does not need to shout. The ingredient list does the talking. Clean ingredients and no added salt set a high bar. The brand at number 4 went further and built everything on a family promise. Number 4. Amy's Kitchen. Amy's has been family-owned since 1988 and built its reputation on organic, vegetarian, and gluten-free products. Their soups use USDA organic ingredients with no GMOs, no artificial flavors, and no preservatives. The organic lentil soup lists filtered water, organic lentils, organic celery, organic onions, organic carrots, organic potatoes, organic extra virgin olive oil, sea salt, organic garlic, and organic spices. 10 ingredients, all of them food. Amy's is not perfect. In July 2025, the FDA classified a recall of 184,200 cans of their light in sodium organic lentil soup as Class 2 after a defect in the Easy Open tab created potential for spoilage. A 2024 Proposition 65 notice in California alleged the presence of cadmium and lead in Amy's vegan gluten-free vegetable lasagna, filed by environmental health advocates against both Amy's Kitchen and the Kroger Company. But ingredient quality and manufacturing defects are two different problems. Amy's soup is real soup. The recalls are about packaging and contamination risk, not about filling the can with starch and calling it food. That distinction matters when you are deciding what to put in your body. Number 3. Kettle and Fire. Kettle and Fire launched in 2015 with a single idea. Slow-simmered bone broth, the way your grandmother actually made it when she had a whole chicken carcass in an afternoon. The company was built on the premise that soup should start with bones cooked low and slow for hours to extract collagen, minerals, and real flavor. Every soup they sell is USDA organic, non-GMO, project verified, and free of glyphosate residue, antibiotics, and added hormones. The ingredient lists are short and transparent. Their chicken vegetable soup lists organic chicken bone broth, organic carrots, organic celery, organic onions, organic chicken, sea salt, organic garlic, organic thyme, organic parsley, organic bay leaf, and organic black pepper. Those are not additives. Those are groceries. The sodium content on most varieties stays under 480 milligrams per serving. The protein content runs around 10 grams per cup from the bone broth itself, not from soy isolate or hydrolyzed corn. You pay more per serving than Campbell's. You also get actual soup instead of water thickened with starch. Bone broth is one foundation. The brand at number 2 built everything on real vegetable and chicken broth, without the fillers. Number 2. Pacific Foods. Pacific Foods started in Tualatin, Oregon, in 1987 and has made organic soups with real broth bases ever since. Campbell's acquired them in 2017, which means the same parent company that makes cream of mushroom with 860 milligrams of sodium also owns a brand that does the exact opposite. Pacific uses organic vegetables, real bone or vegetable broth, and no artificial ingredients. Their organic creamy butternut squash soup lists organic butternut squash, water, organic cane sugar, sea salt, and organic nutmeg. 5 ingredients. Their organic chicken noodle lists organic chicken broth, organic noodles, organic chicken, organic carrots, organic celery, sea salt, organic onion powder, and organic turmeric. 8 ingredients, every one of them recognizable. Board-certified sports dietitian Tara Collingwood noted that Pacific Foods relies on recognizable ingredients like vegetables, legumes, and grains rather than artificial flavors, and uses real broth as a base rather than starch-thickened water. Many of their soups come in cartons instead of cans, which avoids the BPA question entirely. Pacific Foods proves that a major company can make real soup at scale. The reason it is not number one is that one brand did it with even fewer compromises. Number 1. Rouse. Rouse started as a restaurant in East Harlem, New York in 1896. The soup line carries that same idea. Use real ingredients, keep the list short, and let the food speak. Their Italian wedding soup lists chicken broth, meatballs made from pork and beef with Romano cheese and real eggs, carrots, pasta, spinach, onions, sea salt, Parmesan cheese, extra virgin olive oil, parsley, and black pepper. Every ingredient is something you would find in an Italian grandmother's kitchen. There is no modified food starch, no soy protein isolate, no MSG, no yeast extract, and no sodium phosphate. The thickener, where needed, is plain cornstarch, a single ingredient, not a modified industrial product. The sodium levels are moderate. The protein comes from real meat and real cheese. The soups are sold in glass jars, which means no can lining to worry about at all. Rouse costs roughly twice what a can of Campbell's costs. But when you compare the ingredient lists side by side, you are not comparing two versions of the same product. You are comparing soup to something that borrowed the word. Flip the can over. If the first 5 ingredients include modified food starch, yeast extract, or soy protein isolate, put it back. Your grandmother knew the difference between soup and a science experiment. Now you do too. If you want to see which canned meats failed the same test, that video is on screen now.